I remember that day clear as the desert sky, a day that began like any other but ended up changing the course of my whole life. The sun was sinking low, painting the horizon in shades of gold and fire, when I first saw her. A little girl, no more than 8 or 9, running across the dusty main street of our small frontier town. Her hair was tangled, her cheeks streaked with tears, and her small boots kicked up the dirt as though the earth itself was trying to hold her back. She wasn't running aimless, no, she was running straight to him. To the tall cowboy who had just ridden in, his horse weary from the trail, his shadow long against the boardwalk. She ran right into his arms, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. And I heard her voice, high and desperate, cut through the quiet of the evening. "Please, follow me home." Something in the way she clung to him broke me, even before I knew the story. That cowboy, a stranger to most of us, leaned down and spoke soft, the kind of softness you don't expect from a man with trail dust on his shoulders and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. He asked her where her home was, and though her words tumbled out in broken pieces, he listened. He listened as though nothing else mattered. And as I stood just beyond the wooden rail of the mercantile, clutching the hem of my apron, I knew I couldn't look away. Her name was Clara. She was the daughter of a family that had lived out on the edge of town, in a sagging cabin at the edge of the prairie grass. I'd seen her a few times in church, small and quiet, always holding her mama's hand. But this time, she came running alone, dragging the stranger into a story none of us expected. I followed them, though I told myself I shouldn't. Curiosity, maybe, or maybe it was something deeper, that yearning I'd carried for years, to feel part of something more than my own empty homestead. I walked behind at a distance, the dust of their footsteps rising up like smoke. The girl led him to a cabin I knew too well, one that had fallen silent in recent months. And when the cowboy stepped inside, I held back on the porch, my breath caught in my throat. What he saw inside, I'll never forget. The girl's mama lay weak on a straw mattress, her face pale and damp with fever. The air smelled of sickness and neglect, the kind that seeps into old wood and hangs heavy in the rafters. Clara knelt beside her mama, holding her hand as if she could keep her tied to this world with nothing but love. And that cowboy, instead of stepping back or turning away, dropped to his knees beside them. He pulled off his hat, and for a moment, the weight of sorrow in the room bent even his strong shoulders. It broke his heart, I could see it plain. And it broke mine too. I don't know what made me walk in then, but I did. I set down the basket. I carried some bread, a little broth I had cooked that morning, though I'd only meant it for myself. I told him I knew a little of caring for the sick, that I could help. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I felt the ground shift under my feet. His eyes weren't just hard steel like most cowboys who pass through, they carried something tender, something that spoke of old wounds and the longing to heal them. For days we tended to Clara's mama. I cooked what I could, cooled her fever with damp cloths, while he fetched water and cut firewood until his hands blistered. Clara stayed close to him, as if she knew the stranger had been sent to her in some way. And slowly, little by little, a bond grew between us three. But the prairie is a harsh land, and not every story ends the way we pray it will. Clara's mama passed one night as the wind howled outside, carrying the sound of coyotes across the hills. She slipped away quietly, her hand still in mine, Clara curled up at her side. And though sorrow filled that cabin, I saw something else too. The way the cowboy gathered Clara in his arms, whispering that she wasn't alone anymore. The way he looked at me, silent but sure, as if asking whether I'd help carry this burden with him. I had lived a long time in silence, working my little plot of land alone, watching couples pass by with families I thought I'd never know. But in that moment, I felt the walls around my heart soften. The girl needed more than just food and shelter, she needed love, a home, a family. And maybe, just maybe, I needed that too. The cowboy stayed. His name was Jacob, though it took me a while to call him that without my voice trembling. He fixed the roof of my cabin, broke the hard ground so I could plant again, and he laughed in a way that filled the air with something warm I hadn't felt in years. Clara followed him everywhere, her laughter returning like springtime after a long winter. She called him Pa before either of us knew what to say about it. At first, I feared it was only temporary, that one day he'd ride off, leaving nothing but dust and memories. But he didn't. He stayed through the storms, through the lean months, through the nights when loneliness might be otherwise crept back in. And slowly, our lives wove together like threads in a quilt, stitched tight by loss but bound even tighter by hope. Now, when I sit on the porch at dusk, watching Clara chase fireflies across the yard, I think back to that moment, the little girl running to him in tears, her small hands gripping his with desperate faith. "Please, follow me home," she said. She couldn't have known what she was asking, not really. But in those words, she led him to me, and me to him. The West is a hard place. It takes more from you than you sometimes think you can give. But it also offers something rare, the chance to build a family out of strangers, to find love in the ashes of sorrow, and to let hope bloom in the dust. I am no longer just a woman surviving alone on the edge of town. I am Clara's mama now, and Jacob's partner, and together we've carved out a life worth living. All because a little girl, with tears on her cheeks and courage in her heart, asked a cowboy to follow her home.